part of reminding you about our show that we have made some changes in time, and it is from we have left 7 p.m. and we have been shifted to 8:30 p.m. That's when we shall be airing our programs. And tell your neighbor, tell everyone that have not heard today that we shall be always watching Treasures in Agriculture at 8:30 p.m. in the night. So thank you so much for watching. We are coming up with our expert of today. That is none other than Danny that we had last week with Mint. He'll be taking us through. Keep it locked on Google Day TV. Our lovely viewers, like I told you, I'm just right here with our expert of today, none other than Danny, and he will introduce more about himself, and then we shall be moving on with our topic of today. Do not move away, just call on another neighbor to watch. Hi, Danny.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm fine. Your name to the viewers?
I'm called Muwanguzi Daniel. Most people call me Dan Dan.
Which one do you prefer?
When I'm with you, I'd prefer Daniel.
Okay.
Yes.
The other one is business name, and this is...
I don't know. It seems like it's easier for you to say.
Okay, so today I just want to say thank you so much for the previous show about mint. People learned, and we appreciate for that.
You're welcome.
Yes, and then today I told our viewers that we are going to be looking at rosemary, just like we promised them last time. Yeah, and then I would like you to tell us something. When someone speaks about rosemary, what do you think comes to someone's mind? Because for you, something comes to your mind, I know, but what could come to someone's mind if you speak about rosemary?
Rosemary is a tropical plant, and I've realized it's grown all over the world. America, Asia, Africa, and it's so much in our tropics here in Africa. So one thing that I love about rosemary at the core of it is that it smells good. So besides even knowing that you eat it, knowing that it's a herb, I know that I can have it in my home. Just around, and yes, and it looks good. Its green is really unique. It's not like the mango green. It's just a dull, eye-catching green, and it varies so much. You can see a light green up or on the tips. You can see a dark green down. Yes.
Okay. So with the Treasures in Agriculture program, we normally show people different things. We are here to teach them agriculture wise, and then show them something, teach them, and so that they can learn to have something that they can do to earn a living. And then on top of that, we normally show them, like for example today we're looking at rosemary. We normally show them that when you plant rosemary, apart from getting money out of it, maybe if you plant it for commercial purposes, you also yourself need to consume it according to the health benefits that we'll have showed you during the show. So those are some of the things that we do as Treasures in Agriculture. So today I would like you to take us through rosemary, the initial start of it. How much land does someone need to plant rosemary, and then what kind of soil, and then what kind of environment is favorable for growing of rosemary, and then how to plant it.
Okay.
Yes.
So here at Site Farm, there is so many things. There's a variety of things. It's like a mixed farm. Yes. And basically, this is a shade net that has 35 spices, herbs, and vegetables in it, plus some little fruits like strawberries. So what happens with rosemary is that we don't grow it here till it's totally mature. This is more like for bedding it, getting it ready to face life out there in the direct sun and direct rain. I would maybe start by showing you how we plant it right from the word go. You can use seeds. You can also use vegetative method of growing it.
Are seeds easy to get here in Uganda?
Yes, you can order for some because we don't have a seed producing company that does rosemary seeds here. But you can order for some, and I'd recommend that for someone who wants to grow seeds, because you order for what you want, because they will describe it. If you want a very big rosemary, there are like 3 types, so you would get the type that you want.
Oh, there's a type that is very big.
Yes, there's a type that has thicker, stickier leaves, and that's the type they use to get rosemary oil. there is a little more oil in there.
Okay.
Then there is a type that has flappier leaves, but those are used so much for tea because it's easy to get the scent out of them. It easily vaporizes, and those are the ones that we use in for decoration in our living rooms, just to have the scent going around the house. Yeah.
Okay, so please take us through. Tell the viewers, show them how we plant, what we need to do, and how we are supposed to take care of it. How careful are we supposed to be when we are starting to plant rosemary?
So in the vegetative methods of growing it, I'll need to cut a shoot of my choice. Now, if I want my growth to be vertical, very tall, to grow very tall, I'll choose something that has really grown so tall, so I would cut a shoot like that. Because it's tall and it's not branching off a lot, so I would cut it and plant it to get a taller one. If I wanted something that grows very wide, I'd get a tip that has many branches. For example, this one. So I would cut off the tip and have it grown. It will have many branches when it's still young. So I'm going to demonstrate on a little cutting that I got this morning. So you will need to grow this, to root it down so that it grows in a little colder environment, because if you expose it to too much sunshine, it will drain out. It will be dehydrated. So I want to be sure that it won't get rotten while I'm rooting it. So I want to cut off the leaves that are at the edge, that are not going to be exposed to sun, because they will rot and they will cause the whole plant to rot. And I want to cut a sharp edge, really sharp and steep. The reason for that is so that you have a surface area that is not having crevices for bacteria to have an overgrowth. I'll have this dipped in a little rooting hormone if you have it. If you don't have it, you can use things like aloe vera. Aloe vera.
What are the rooting hormones?
If you have like a seaweed, the normal seaweeds, they have so much rooting hormones for the mere fact that they can root through the top of the water to the bottom. It means that they have so much rooting hormone. So I can use that. I can use aloe vera. It's a magical plant. It almost does everything.
Any kind of aloe vera?
Yes, any kind. Aloe vera is magical. So you would use it for that, or you would buy rooting hormone from the stores out there, and then you just smear it around the base, because your roots are going to sprout from that very tip. Yes, so I'll dip it in that, and then I'll put it into cocoa peat. Now, cocoa peat looks like this. You can buy a brick of cocoa peat from the outlets. I would like you would flake it to finer pieces, and then you would pour water in it. It swells a little. It gets to a bigger volume when you put water. Now the advantage is that when you put that cocoa peat, just raise that up a little. So if I put that in my pot and I treated it well, it would swell, and then I would have it completed and wetted very well. So I would dip my cutting into the cocoa peat. The advantage is that it wouldn't dry out the whole time. You can have water held back within that the whole day. Yeah, and then in like 2 weeks it will have sprouted roots. Yeah, now there are no nutrients in cocoa peat. It's really dry. It's just damp. So I would like to be sure that as soon as the roots come out, I need to pull it out properly. Now the advantage is that cocoa peat comes out with the whole rooting system. Yeah.
How about someone who does not have cocoa peat and they have the normal soil? Won't that work?
Yeah, if you have the normal soil, I would prefer that you don't use very manured soil, because it would encourage the shoots to rot. Imagine if you have like cow dung around this. As the cow dung is rotting, it may encourage this to rot too. So what you would do is to get sand. I think I have a little. So what happens with sand is that it drains easily. You won't have bacteria harbor there a lot.
Okay.
And bacteria has nothing to eat
Okay.
from sand.
Mm.
So if I planted this shoot
In sand.
in sand, this above,
Will
that
it
part,
germinate?
yes, it will get roots. Like you see many, all these were rooted from sand
Okay.
before they were brought into the polythene that you see. Yes, that's it. That's like the simplest way that I use to grow this.
Okay. How long does it, let me first look at those people who are doing it commercially, because at least this can remain, I think that remains like that. Planting it for deco home purposes, planting them in the pots instead of those that are doing it for commercial purposes. The planting, you make it the big garden
Okay.
outside. How long does it take in the tin where you are rooting it from to be moved to the big garden?
So the guideline of how to grow it on commercial is you to know the conditions that it needs. Rosemary needs a lot of sunlight, but if it has too much sunlight without too much water, it will dry out. So it's intense. It needs both light, it's heat, it needs water, and it needs intense conditions. That's why if you go to America, you'll find it like on prairies up there where the sun comes out directly onto them, but also there is coldness at some point. There is also too much water at some point. So I would say that once you have your plot of land having too much sunlight that is exposed to them, you don't need to grow them under the trees. You would just transfer them. Remember, we had them in cocoa peat at some point. You would want to mix your soil to be very fertile, because the trick to growing vegetables and green stuff is to make sure there is so much nitrogen. Nitrogen brings green. Then to avoid the yellowing, you make sure there is enough phosphorus. So how do we do that? I've seen these people that grow mushrooms. This is a mushroom garden that I use personally as a source of potassium. I know that this will need a lot of potassium, a lot of nitrogen. I also make sure that I have soil that has been mixed up with organic manure, something that is from organic compost, either chicken droppings or rubbish that is organic, green leaves that have just decomposed. That will be very good for the rosemary. Then I could mix it up. If the soil is really less aerated, I would still mix my cocoa peat within that, which is really, even if you squeeze it, the roots will be able to go through it. It stays, it's easily broken down. Now, when I am planting it, I would like to cut my rosemary packet in such a way that I do not break any of the roots. I'd like to cut it from top to bottom, so I splash it out without breaking any of the roots. The thing is, when it's growing, since it has many branches, the roots, each of every root is responsible for each of every branch. So I wouldn't want to lose any of the roots. So I'll cut it out very well and plant it to the level that is to the last branch. So I'll plant it up to right there in the garden. And I would make sure that I mulch around it, because when soil falls, when the rain falls onto the soil, it tends to splash soil onto our plant. So I'll make sure there is mulch around, so that when I'm harvesting, I may come and cut that branch off for the harvest. Now, if I cut out the branch, I'll make sure that I cut it out. So if this was my original seedling, I'll plant it up to here, up to that level, so that when I'm harvesting, I'll focus upwards. And if I want my plants to grow taller within the place that I'm growing them, I'll cut branches from down and leave the branches that are up, so that it focuses on the vertical growth. I know that there are many questions that would arise from that. Should it be vertical? Should it be horizontal? Should it grow bigger, broader than taller? I think it depends on the test, because once it has all the nutrients, it will still grow bigger, but from the vertical position. I'd also make sure that in case the place that you're growing it is very drained, if water goes through very fast, you would prefer drip lines, or you would prefer to water it every now and then. And then when it overgrows, when the rosemary is like 2 years old, it means that it has used up all the nitrogen, in case you're not giving it monthly nitrogen. So you would need to check on the leaves. If they lose contrast, if they start to yellow, or if they start to give you any other weird color that is other than green, this kind of dark green, you will need to check on the manure composition, the nutrient composition of the soil. Rosemary usually does not have a problem with our soil, typically here in Uganda. But then if you find your soil being rejected by the rosemary, you will need to really revamp it with a lot of nitrogen. Now, nitrogen is typical from chicken droppings, according to what I've seen farmers locally doing it. But you can also use leaf compost, the compost that comes from leaves.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for the explanation of transfer of a seedling plant of rosemary to a commercial garden for someone that wants to do it for commercial purposes.
Yes.
And then actually something else we want us to look at, we want you to take us through before we move on to the last step of our show today is you show us how we take care of you say they take how many weeks to be transferred to the commercial garden?
That would be like 3 weeks.
Okay. For the 3 weeks, as they are still under bedding, is it? How do we care for those? Do we spray? Is there any chemical that we apply? Is there anything that we are supposed to do so that it can grow in the 3 weeks time, or maybe beyond or less? And then another thing from there, you'll take us and show after the care of in the seedling level or process, then also show us how we take care of it as we have moved to the commercial garden. How does someone take good care of the rosemary to give them the good yields that they will expect?
There's a particular black mold that usually attacks rosemary, and funny enough is that the rosemary has the capacity to fight that mold. Now you need to just focus on the nutrient composition. If the rosemary is healthy, that mold comes and the rosemary itself can fight it.
Okay.
It can produce an acid that fights it off. Now, if the rosemary, the soil where it's planted is not full of nutrients, it's going to be compromised.
Are we on the side of the garden or the seedling?
Both sides, still right from the seedling. That's why you don't need to let the rosemary be long in the cocoa pit, because the cocoa pit has no nutrients. You need to transfer it as soon as it gets fruit. You transfer it as soon as you notice the roots have come out. Transfer it from the cocoa pit, which it's really drained, but it has no nutrients. You transfer it to the plant, to the soil that is really usually black. Darker soil has more nitrogen. Now, that's why you would mix it with the likes of mushroom garden, which are sources
in the commercial garden.
Yes, which is a good source of potassium and phosphate. So you have both droppings or organic manure plus some of these. Some people do the NPK, but I wouldn't advise that because it's not good with some of our vegetables.
Okay.
Yes, the black mold would still follow there is always like a black mold around the rosemary garden, but once you notice it, you just need to give it more nutrients. Well, that's what I do. Now, since we are doing organic, if I notice any insects around or any fungus, I would just get hot pepper, cayenne. Any hot pepper can work. I will crush it and filter it very well. I'll make sure it's hot water.
Okay.
So I'll splash hot water around this, even if it's on commercial.
Okay.
Yes, not hot water, It's water
It
that's made hot
water,
with
it is
hot
made
pepper.
Okay.
Yes, so
I
I'll
understand.
spread it around very well. Finally, you just need to care for your garden very finely. Now I'll spread here, and I'll make sure any insect just goes off.
Okay.
They are usually safe within the shade net because insects don't come in, but once they are on the large scale farm, they would easily get those insects.
Okay.
The other thing that I would also want to mention is that rosemary really likes it when you chop around.
Okay, Daniel, can we just have a break and then come back as you show us?
All right.
Well, our lovely viewers, I'm so sorry to break that, but we need to go for a short commercial break and then come back with the rest of the information that Daniel is supposed to give us. Let's take a short commercial break and then come back. Thank you. Our lovely viewers.
Good TV, lighting your soul.
If I put this on a commercial garden, it would grow very, very fast. Why? It is so established. But then to plant it out there, I would need to cut
The roots.
a few of the roots
Why?
to encourage it, because it will now be clogged up in one space.
Oh.
So to encourage the roots to grow, I'll need to just do like around 4 cuttings of that sort.
Okay, because there's so
Yes, you realize the roots are so many.
much. Okay.
So I would cut off the old roots so that I encourage it to bring newer roots.
Okay.
Now when they come out new, it will
Doesn't that
grow
affect
faster.
it in any way?
No, it is still alive.
Okay.
Yes. What happens is that there is a main root in the middle. I don't have to tamper with that. It's right in the middle.
Is
Yes.
that the taproot?
Yeah, the taproot. I don't need to tamper with the taproot. So these are smaller.
Okay.
They don't affect it.
Okay.
So I'll cut them out so that I can easily
Then
plant
you
it.
put it to the
Yes.
commercial.
So I would come and so in the commercial, like I said earlier, you would make sure that you drop it to that kind of space. To that kind of space.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Oops. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for that for the teachings and then for the experiments we have gone through.
Yeah.
And then finally we would like to look at the health benefits of rosemary. Someone out there, as you consume rosemary, what are the health benefits of rosemary to someone that consumes it?
Yes.
And because you talked about the dried rosemary and the one that is not dried, but both can be used, and you show us which one is better in terms of health to be used. So
Yes.
could you please take us through the health benefits of rosemary as we conclude the program?
Yes, I would like to just mention a few of the functions that rosemary has for our body. We have already seen that it can be used in meat. Now, most of our mothers have cooked this in our meat, and it was so nice. As we grow up, that soup that they usually give us when we have flu, they just make sure it has too many spices and it's hot enough, and then they'll give it to you and you'll sniff in as you take the soup. So that's said and done. I've noticed that Americans use this more for tea, and I think we have adopted so easily. So rosemary tea is really green if you use it fresh. If you just dip some few cuttings of rosemary, it comes out so green. So people that are looking out for green tea, that's so good. The advantage is that I'm a nutritionist, so what happens is that there are certain chemicals that we know that are in rosemary that are anti-aging agents. I know that many people don't want to grow old, and everyone doesn't want to grow old, but there is a particular chemical in this that is good with metabolic activities. It just fastens, it boosts your metabolic energy. That's why it's easy for you to have a very high appetite if you just smell this, because the body is kind of triggered to have a high metabolic rate at that particular moment. And usually I don't encourage pregnant mothers to do a lot of rosemary. it could make your heart beat so fast in the moment, and the baby wouldn't like that. The baby would kick you, for lack of a better explanation. But yes, it kind of gives a heart a trigger, and then it triggers the whole body to just do that. Usually the guys are told that this is a manpower booster, but I wouldn't encourage them to use it. They should just take it on a normal. If they have issues with that, they should just use something else. So I'll talk about the function of rosemary as a headache reliever. I'd also mention that if it's a regular headache, you may not feel the impact, but there are people that have many migraines. There are people that almost every week they have a migraine. Those would actually have a very good advantage with this, because if you take it with a migraine, what happens is that it slows it down and it just helps you react to the medicine, to the medication very fast. I talked about the fact that it boosts the heartbeat, the heart rate. The repercussions are not negative, because it does that while trying to boost blood flow. Most of us, as we grow, our blood vessels are very clogged up. So what happens is that it tries to remove the scrape that's around the lining of our blood vessels. I'll talk about the fact that it boosts immunity. In the middle of increasing our metabolic rate, it really boosts the immunity by introducing what we call antioxidants. So the antioxidants work on the skin. People that have bleeding gums, it has an antioxidant that helps vitamin C absorption. I'll also talk about the fact that it's a brain booster. Some people, when they're like doing their exams, they want to sleep a little later, or sometimes they feel like they are forgetting so fast what they have just read. Studies have shown that this really boosts their memory. When you're reading so hard, you're like doing a master's or a final exams, it boosts the memory in the moment. Finally, I'll mention about the digestive tract. Usually people that have issues with stomach issues, when they go to sleep at night, their stomachs make funny sounds. This can really help out with that. And basically, even if you don't have like medical complications, rosemary is really a good reliever. It just gives a soothing a feeling to the body. And I want you to focus. I know some of you have taken rosemary before, but I want you to focus when you take it. There is a little relief that you get that's very intentional when you take it.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for everything, for the teachings and all that you've given to the viewers today.
You're welcome, and thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you too. And then just for something a little, being that you're a young guy and you're doing all these, you have the passion, just in one or two words to encourage the young boys, the young girls that are watching us outside there.
Even the old guys.
Even the old guys.
So first of all, I'm glad that you came through to Side Farm to view our gardens and our initiatives. We are so glad. I want to just encourage the nutritionists out there that we need to treat the country. Yes. We need a healthier country. We need a more natural country. I know that technology has gone to the next level. We need to use that technology to treat our people better. And I just want to encourage you to do this. Now, for people that are interested in growing vegetables, fruits, herbs, and all the kind of greenhouse things, I'd like you to really visit us. We need you to check out what we do. I believe that together we can do something better. Yes. I know that there are many people that have spent a lot of money in farming for maybe something that wasn't even worth it. But yeah, let us work better, let us treat better, and let us have a better Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could just you give your contact to people out there that would like maybe to get directions to where you are, and maybe to meet you, take them through what they want to do.
All right. My number is 0701 60 69 80. That's the one that we use for the business, and you will be picked up anytime that you call.
We say it again.
0701 60 69 80, and that's under the names of Mwanguzi Daniel.
Oh, our lovely viewers, you have been wonderful and wonderful viewers on Google Day TV in our program Treasures in Agriculture. You have been with me, Nafuna Pace, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Keep informing others. Just a reminder, reminder about our program. Remember, I told you at the initial start of the program that our show has been shifted from 7 p.m. where we have been always watching it from, and then shifted to 8:30 p.m. in the night. That's when we shall be watching it. So inform your neighbor, inform whoever hasn't watched today. You can send
Google TV, lighting your soul.
Zanya, posinga, recordinga, obodde mabega. Nyumirwa Google TV ku simu yo, tablet oba computer, wonna